Hello and good morning. Welcome to today's Elsewhere webinar. I'm your host, Elliot Levy, and I'm joined by Elsewhere co-founder and Chief Product and Strategy Officer, Leon Gauman, who will be talking you through our AI productivity platform and how to make AI work at scale. A little bit of housekeeping. There will be some questions at the end, and honestly, that's about it. So over to you, Leon.
Thank you, Elliot. Good morning, everyone. Really happy you could take the time and join us today. And let's jump in. So just a quick intro on Elsewhen. We help organizations become the most effective and productive versions of themselves. And I'll let you discover more on our website at elsewhen.com if you wish so. And we'll have a link in the end of the presentation as well. So there are many challenges enterprises still face when implementing AI today. 80% detect no real noticeable impact from AI on either employment or productivity. 95% see no meaningful ROI from their AI investments. And false starts aren't a failure. They're a symptom of speed. This is a very fast diffusing technology. Things are moving really, really fast, and we're bound to do some mistakes on the way. At Elsewhen, we identified 4 key blockers to leveraging AI for enterprise productivity gains. First, we find that generic SaaS is costly, complex, and poorly adapted to real work. AI solutions are disconnected from your data. AI tools aren't customized to the task at hand. And a lot of AI projects are piecemeal, not transformational. The good thing is that intelligence is now a commodity. We all have this magic box. The question is, how should you use the magic box? The incumbent SaaS providers will tell you that they're now agentic. But maybe they're just databases storing your data for you. We all have access to the same magic box now, us and them. SaaS was built really for a world where software was scarce. Today, coding is dramatically accelerated by large language models and agentic engineering. We really feel like we crossed the Rubicon in December. Since Opus 4.6 and Context 5.3 release, there was a paradigm shift in the capability of agents, and people really started to notice. So here's a few selected tweets in the last 2 months. So Ryan Dahl, who is the inventor of Node, said that humans writing code is over. Andre Caparti, who was one of the founding members of Tesla AI and Opus, and later was involved in OpenAI, said that AI agents didn't work in December, basically worked since. He was really skeptical of agentic engineering for a very long time, and then suddenly his opinion switched. And here, a very famous tweet from Jana Degan, who said that they managed to one-shot a platform that they've been working on to migrate for a very long time. Obviously, a very stark example. However, things really palatably shifted for us as well at Elsewhen. We've now fully embraced the agentic engineering approach. And this makes software not longer scarce. You know, you can see companies like Spotify, with best developers at Spotify not writing a single line of code since December. Stripe famously released their Minion framework description and have 1,300 pull requests merged each week. And here Uber also talking about the amount of changes that they've completely accepted into their code base without human involvement. So these are very kind of spearheading companies, digital native companies. However, they're really showing the way, and others will follow because the productivity gains are very hard to ignore. And in February, markets reacted. We all saw SaaS stocks sold off as investors repriced the sector. If software can now be generated on demand, the economics of SaaS, as it currently stands, no longer makes sense. Paying for seats, multiple year contracts, all of that doesn't really add up. SaaS isn't dead yet, but it bleeds. And we're really moving from this idea of renting tools to generating capability. Instead of relying on external software, organizations will increasingly generate capabilities inside their own stack, writing and owning much, much more software, not less. Here's a tweet from, a quote from Stripe CEO Patrick saying the software should be like pizza, cooked right then and there at the moment of use. And if you think about the total IT spend, which is estimated by Gartner to be about 5.6 trillion, the amount we're covering right now in software in terms of spend is a fraction of that. And this capability of agentic coding will really allow us to extend to the rest of the value chain. So how do you turn a generic large language model, the magic box, into software that represents your unique business workflows? Taking an existing workflows and make it much cheaper and faster to run by including agents. It's not about slapping a chat interface on everything. It's about creating the glue that connects models, knowledge, workflows, and people. We identified 4 key principles for successful enterprise AI productivity. First of all, it should be built for you, tailored to workflows, moving beyond one-size SaaS to modular enterprise-specific system, built on your own stack, lowering costs, no rip and replace. Freedom from vendors lock-in, and you can own the IP. And the model should be shaped around your needs and selected by you and not by a third party. Grounded intelligence, so connecting AI directly to proprietary data for accuracy, governance, and context. Models anchored in your own data, reduce hallucinations and bias, and including governance and security in the makeup of this solution. We firmly believe in having human in the loop, so replacing tasks, not people. AI should automate work, but leave the subject matter experts in charge of the decisions. Define approval points and escalation path, create traceable logic decisions, trails, and model transparency, clear oversight and accountability for decision-making. And agentic enterprise, so multi-agent systems that evolve into a resilient operating model, embedding AI as the system itself, moving from pilots to platforms, orchestrating end-to-end agentic workflows, and creating systematic productivity gains. At Else1, we developed 5 accelerators to get you there faster: business context, headless agents, orchestrator, skill factory, and generative UI. And I will go through them one by one. So this is not a product or a SaaS platform. It's a set of components that accelerate your delivery, built from emerging patterns. What this looks like at a very high level, at 10,000 feet, and I'll go through each component and try to explain it. So firstly, you have the business context. A structured model how your organization operates. It's monitored and being kept up to date by agents. It's connected to data across your systems, so CRM, ERP, CDP, wherever drives your organization. Also, non-structured data now is accessible, so in your PDFs or whatever storage of data you have. And also, it should include this internal decision context from the agents and from the humans using them. They have explicit entity relationships, embedded rules and governance, and historical state and traceability. This is unlocking data to become more valuable in previously unimaginable ways. Headless agents, AI agents that run workflows or combination of workflows. They act as digital workers embedded inside your organization, execute tasks automatically, use skills to follow defined processes, understand the business context, trigger actions or workflows where needed, and humans in the loop where it matters. And they automate high volume work to reduce costs, increase throughput, and remove bottlenecks. Then we have the orchestrator. It's the coordination layer for agents. Orchestrator ensures agents work together reliably across complex workflows, routes tasks to the right agent, manages multi-step workflows, shares context between agents, handles approvals and escalation, tracks state, memory, and outcomes, and monitors performance and optimizes over time. It allows to scale AI safely across the enterprise with control, visibility, and governance in mind. And then we have the skills factory. It empowers your employees to guide the agents. Anyone can teach an agent how work gets done. Create and update skills using natural language. No coding is required. Describe a task the way you would explain it to a colleague. Capture expertise once, and then you can reuse it across different teams. Set rules, guardrails, and decision criteria. Continuously improve skills as work evolves. The result is that your organization builds a growing library of operational intelligence. Everyone in a business can take advantage of this technology without being an AI expert. And finally, generative UI. Interfaces and dashboards and experiences that are created on the fly, embedded in the workflow. They represent exactly how a job needs to be done at the exact moment of need from an interface perspective. Available across all the different surfaces your employees use. And they're very fast to build because they are utilizing the LLM's capability to write code. And they drive adoption by embedding AI directly into how people already work. So these components come from patterns we see repeatedly in real work. We've distilled them into a practical platform that accelerates your AI transformation. We also have a roadmap to embed these accelerators into your organization. There's 3 stages that enable you to map, build, scale, and evolve. First is AI activation, immediate automation and value-add implementation. Then we kick off AI integration, infrastructure modernization, and technical debt resolution, and the agentic enterprise. So enterprise-wide intelligence through autonomous systems and adaptive orchestration. Elsewhere funded AI squad to design and deliver a custom AI agent. Our bet is that we can demonstrate more value in 4 weeks than other consultancies promise in 4 months. So join us and move from pilots to proven value in weeks. Book a working session to define your first use case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leon. Really interesting. So we have a few questions. And the first one is appropriately, what does day one of this look like, this transformation?
So day one is our team embedded with your team to go through and launch an agent as fast as possible. So this AI activation part of the roadmap. And the day one is coming in, describing the process, and then redefining it with an agent in mind, and then essentially launching that agent as fast as we can.
Cool.
This is essentially what AI Squad should do in the first 4 weeks.
And transformation can be a bit of a scary word. Someone asks, is this a big transformation or is it something we can layer in?
Our goal is to get to this vision of an agentic enterprise. So having agents working alongside people in the organization and taking away work that they can do best. However, this can be introduced in a layered way. So basically, we can start with a particular area, one workflow, or a series of workflows, essentially understanding somebody's jobs to be done, and then taking some of those jobs away into this agentic platform.
And also, how quickly do you typically see value from this?
ROI should be decided from the very first meeting. So basically, there's no point to do this unless you can identify area where you can produce the right operational cost savings.
And on the vibe coding, would you recommend companies vibe code their own software completely?
I don't think that companies should vibe code their own software. I think people should work through vibe coding as a way of solving particular areas in their domain or describing the problem and the solution. But if you think about an enterprise scale, you need a more kind of guardrailed approach, just in terms of the security and the governance around this. So ideally, we want to create a way for people to quickly execute their needs through an agent. But I think what vibe coding tools are great for prototyping, explaining what the problem is and what the potential solution is. And then if SME can do that themselves, then they have the power to actually bring some of their vision to life that then can be taken to the next step.
Yeah, I think once you told me it's kind of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 kind of approach.
Well, vibe coding, yeah, I think in coding in general, 80-20 rule now is becoming more and more important. So it takes 80% to get there pretty fast, but then most of the work is in the 20%, and that can really destroy the scalability of a solution.
Cool. And do clients need all 5 accelerators, or can they start with one?
So to get to the maximum value that you potentially want to generate out of moving to a more agentic way of working, you need all of these patterns in place. So these patterns are what is emerging right now to be able to unlock agentic capabilities across your business unit or across your organization. But many organizations start from one place, and that's the business context. So the most important pillar of this, and a good place to start, is creating a business context. And we've been seeing this business context, this graph rag, this solution that allows repackaging of data into a way that is easy for an agent to traverse and to understand and to reason with, as the cornerstone of building all the additional capabilities.
And that business context layer, how do you make it stay accurate over time as the organization changes and evolves?
So part of the solution around the business context is that the agents populate and update it to keep it concurrent. So we want to move into a place where we don't need to create a pipeline every time, but there is an agent that can update the business context from the different platforms back and forth. They can read and write, and that's essentially how you keep it concurrent. Plus, it builds even more knowledge by interacting with the organization and tracing decisions and adding them back into the context, so they can create this organizational memory that doesn't even exist today. So if you think about, oh, my computer went to sleep. If you think about the type of data we're dealing with now, is mostly structured databases. So, and SAS was the UI layer that came on top that people use to update these databases. So you would have something in sales, something around new products, and etc. There's also loads and loads of data in unstructured documents previously, which we couldn't access because we didn't have technology that can manage these document stores, and now we have. So that's a whole other bulk of knowledge that previously existed in a digital page, essentially, and was limited to that context. So imagine a Word document, you come in, you write, you change, that it doesn't diffuse further into the organization. But now we can do that. We can actually pick that up and mix it together with your CRM. And also this additional layer that once you have the business context in place and you have agents working around particular jobs and picking up knowledge, they store it back. So it creates this trace of almost like an organizational memory that we currently don't have. And we can pick this up also from tool use. So for example, we could plug into Slack and get information out of there, to be able to add additional context of data. We've been doing that to expose some of the decision making and conversation around the particular topic. At Elsewhen, for example, we deployed a solution that we built internally called ElseMem, MEM standing for memory, and you can add it to any channel, and it's gonna index all the information in that channel and all the conversations that are happening, and then provide it as a context, as additional context to you when you use your Claude work or any other tool And also it centralizes that, so you can move it between the different tools. So you can imagine that at scale, you can take that and provide that to an agent to help it make better decisions around what to do with particular ticket or client, or etc.
Yeah, wow. It's a whole new way of viewing the business. On the skills, someone asks, how do you prevent skills from becoming outdated or going stale as processes evolve?
Skills need to be updated in the same way as you would update other procedures, but then they can be that can be done once, and they can be version controlled, and you can do that once, and then at every point somebody uses that skill, they're going to be using the same process. So it's an incredibly efficient way to codify your processes, which today we lack. I think if you think about how an organization operates, the gap between we captured something in document and how we should be doing things, and that actually is happening, exists. We can have the best intention, but it exists. Here you can codify exactly how you want a certain process work in natural language, because it's a large language model, and then that is going to be invoked every single time you do this process. So I don't know, for example, your compliance process, or how do you process a certain document, or even at Elsewhen we have a skill for using our branded templates. So every time you create material, you can invoke a skill that will generate an Elsewhen template, that a deck essentially that follows our best practices. Very simple example.
Is this realistic for a 500 plus person company, or does it make only economic sense at a certain scale?
I think it's realistic for a 3 people company. So it's just, the question is, so how much glue do you need between the model and the process? So basically, if it's a very small company, you can use a very small set of tools, because the amount of process complexity is small. As the organization grows, the process complexity grows, so you need these abstractions to be able to solve a more complex problem. It's similarly, if you think about coding, if you write a very simple program, it can exist within one file, and it's just line by line code executing. But as the system grows, you need to think about different ways to abstract it, to make it easy to change, update, refresh, get others to use it. My computer froze again. Sorry, it goes into sleep mode. So what we're targeting with our accelerators and the platform, I would say, is a kind of a mid-market and large enterprises. So companies that have a lot of operational complexity, and they would like to have a more codified and established way of utilizing agents. And again, this is not a solution like a platform or a tool. These are pieces of technology that have been developed, and you could codify your own, but we went and spent time to bring these to life, so it's faster to get the solution going if you integrate those.
So I suppose at the end of it all, regardless of the size of your enterprise, the aim will be to be completely agentified, the agentic enterprise for everyone.
I think every process is going to be that humans do is going to be agentified. So these ideas are correct on a small scale and at a large scale, but I think with a larger scale, there's more investment that you need to do in this glue piece to make sure that what you have is scalable, it's safe, it works as expected, and it allows the organization to take advantage of it.
Cool. And we've got a couple more questions here. How do you handle the human in the loop in more regulated industries where every decision needs a clear audit trail?
Well, this is what's great about the business context, is that it will take and index all of these decisions. So it's actually a much more streamlined and effective way to the one that we're using normally in organizations today. So if you imagine that an agent is executing a work process, and in a certain place it had to go and involve a human, and the very clear guardrails that you can put in place, that if there is a certain ambiguity or certain conditions are met and you can codify this in your skills, you have to bring a human in a loop. So the agent has to go and invoke a human decision. In both cases, you can store this information in your business context as a index trail, as a trail of the decision, and then it's very easy to actually show the path of all of these decisions. You can move even forward, which is very hard to do. You can iterate on the process very quickly on the basis of information, because you have this analytical data stored of how many times, where, and why, and what was the decision, and how you can then change that. So if the decision is similar every time, we can update our system to be able to reflect that through the skills or through the orchestrator. So it's a constantly living, changing system that adapts to how the organization actually uses it.
And the last one's slightly adjacent to that, to be honest, and it's what happens when an agent gets something wrong? Who's accountable?
So again, the accountability trail is very simple to set up and decide. And the accountability will lie within the organization, within the business domain that the agent is operating in. So in the same way as you would have any other decision under a particular business unit or under a particular domain, we know exactly where things are happening, and we have all those. It's, imagine that today, if you use a website or a piece of software, we have analytical tools that essentially report both on how the system is being used and kind of how the technology to support that system is being pushed in different directions. How well it runs. Tools like Sentry and Accenture and Google Analytics, it kind of gives you both sides. So in a similar way in here, you would have the same information available in the business context of how the agent was used and where the borders that it met and there was an issue.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions. I do want to ask you though, what's the most exciting development for you at the moment in this space? Because there's so much going on.
For me personally, what's been amazing is we see with agentic coding, we can build very, very fast. So for example, we could build these accelerators at a speed that previously was not possible. We can do things in weeks that took a lot longer previously. It took months previously. And also this way of working allows me personally, as a founder and a person that hasn't written code for a long time, to write code now. So I can use agents and do some coding in a way that was not possible. I was just thinking about this yesterday, that I started coding at a time where you had to read books to be able to code. And now I can just talk to an AI agent and provision it to do things that I did not know about 2 weeks ago, which is incredible. It's very empowering.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you all for joining us this morning. If you want to learn more about the platform itself, do follow that QR code, but also it's just on elsewhen.com. If you want to get in touch about the AI squads, please do. Leon is always available for that. But yes, thank you for joining us and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.